So there is some kind of civil war in France, and I'm not the person calling it a civil war. Neither is Tim Pool at this point. It's actually the French police who are calling it a civil war in France. We've been warned about this. We're going to go through it. Before we begin, go over, check out our latest Epochs episode, Thomas Becket. There are no particular parallels here. It's just a really good episode. Really enjoyed it because I didn't really know the backstory behind Thomas Becket, but he's actually a really fascinating guy. And to be honest with you, I kind of side with Henry II on this. Like, yeah, he is a meddlesome priest. Sick of it. Someone gets the sword. Anyway, so in 2021, French generals and 130,000 members of the public published a letter warning of a civil war. And that civil war appears to have arrived. As you may know, YouTube arbitrarily demonetized our channel, so I'd like to thank Lotus.com's first sponsor, Atlas VPN, for supporting us and providing a service that is actually useful as we move into our new cyberpunk dystopia. Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month, with 3 months extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the service. Follow the link in the description to sign up. You'll be liberated from region locks, so you can watch streaming content from anywhere in the world, but I think more importantly is that it masks your IP. Firstly, this prevents us from being spied upon by the various state dragnets. We find it important that it keeps your Google searches private, which prevents them from tailoring the results based on your past searches, which prevents them from hiding information because they've built up a profile against us. It also protects you from being the target of malicious ads, trackers, and malware, and informs you when someone is trying to steal your data. There has been a spate of people getting their accounts hacked recently, and Atlas VPN helps protect against that. Atlas VPN is also easy to install. Even I could do it without assistance. What you're seeing now is the footage I recorded of myself installing the thing. Once you're logged in, you can see that you just need to click on the location that you want to tell the internet where you want to be from, and you're all set. To repeat then, Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month with a 3-month extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the service. Follow the link in the video description to sign up, and remember, supporting them is supporting us, so please do check them out. The message it contains some very interesting quotes. This is about the survival of our country. The French government condemned it, obviously. We'd like France to survive. The French government, no.
It's not the point.
Yeah. The letter came from semi-retired generals. The minister in charge of the armed forces said they would be punished for defying a law that forbids reservists or serving members of the military from expressing opinions on religion and politics. But of course, Marine Le Pen was like, well, maybe they've got a point, guys.
I remember reading this out when it was published, and the feeling was not good in France at the time, obviously. And even Eric Zemmour was like, well, I'll side with them if I have to.
And it turns out that it only takes one spark to light the fire, and then the whole thing goes up in flames, which is what has happened. So, in fact, I've got to use this, don't I? There we go. So Nahel Merzouk, average Frenchman, was of Algerian and Moroccan descent and was shot by a police officer during a traffic stop on Tuesday, according to Sky. Now, there's a lot going on around about this because he appears to have been in a Polish car and he's not old enough to drive. So where did he get the car?
Didn't have a license,
of course,
which is why he was pulled over.
Ran away from the cops. Apparently they'd pulled him over because he had nearly hit 2 people or something. And it's just like, right. He didn't get that from the newspapers, obviously, because this kid is, of course, an angel. Which is exactly what the narrative surrounding him is. He wanted to make it. He was no big-time bandit. So, right, okay. His mother says he saw the police officer, she thinks, saw a little Arab-looking kid and wanted to take his life. Right. So the police officer's like,
oh boy, here I go killing again.
Yes. God, an Arab. Like, that's...
I mean, there is a secular narrative, ethnic narrative around this as well, which is just about why did the police need to kill a guy for driving away from the cops?
Yeah.
There's an argument to be had about police brutality there, but that's what nobody is talking about.
Yeah.
Because no one's interested in that.
No. And there's also an argument, well, they have had a few trucks of peace and
well, all the people doing the violence don't care about that secular narrative.
No, they don't. So we give them like very, very generous pieces on this young lad. But again, I'm actually on the he probably shouldn't have been shot position. Like, doesn't seem proportional, but it doesn't really matter because that's not really what this is about. But we get very, very complimentary things. But the thing I found interesting is this, right? Interviews with the mother and things the mother has posted online. because she shared a video on TikTok where she says, quote, "Everyone come, we will lead a revolt for my son." So the mother's just openly calling for a revolt.
But what does that even mean? Revolt for your son?
Well,
we're going to kill the police, or
there's going to be an uprising against the French state. That's what a revolt is.
But then, what does that have to do with your son? I mean, this is obvious. But
what did Archduke Ferdinand have to do with World War One? You know,
yeah,
like it begins somewhere, but then the whole thing.
But also,
dominoes.
For a direct comparison to, I don't know, the kind of people involved, Tunis. So the Tunisian revolution was started by, I think it was some fruit merchant who was being beaten up by the police.
Yep.
Completely mundane event in Tunisia. It was filmed.
Here I go beating fruit merchants again.
And it started up a revolution that overthrew the entire system.
Yeah.
And
that's what she's asking for.
Yeah, this shooting is completely irrelevant to the events now that are going on in France.
Yes.
Because things have escalated far beyond that.
Yes, and everyone can see that. I mean, the other relatives, again, the BBC say a relative of the teenager, has said the family did not want his death to spark riots. In fact, we never called for hate or riots. I mean, the mother did upload it to TikTok and say, "Revolt in the name of my son," but there we go. And the grandmother has got to the point where she's like, actually, maybe we should stop the rioting. Maybe it's not good. So mixed messages coming out of that family.
But too late. I mean, all of this was set in place by the French state and its immigration policies beforehand.
Yes. Stop rioting. Stop destroying. I say this to those who are rioting. Do not smash windows, attack schools and buses. Stop. It's mothers who take those buses. So they're trashing the places in which they live.
Revolutions are violent. I'm shocked.
Yeah, exactly. But the BBC went to Nanterre, which is where this occurred, and interviewed various people. They asked 3 middle-aged white ladies, Lucille, Marie, and Jean, I think, who were hanging around, and they said, the rioting has nothing to do with what happened. Of course, the kid shouldn't have been killed, but he was joyriding without a license at 8 o'clock in the morning when children are going to school. And Marie looks at one smashed bus shelter daubed with graffiti that reads, "One cop, one bullet." I mean, at least they're not, like, pretending.
No, there's no mostly peaceful blah, blah, blah.
No. The mask is totally off at this point, right? Now we get the Arab view from Nanterre. Bakari, didn't give a second name, doesn't justify the riots, but believes that they are understandable. Certain people react against violence with violence. I wasn't surprised by Nahil's killing because we have all had bad experiences with police. There are good and bad everywhere, but the large majority of police are racist. Right. Yasmina says, I absolutely hate the French police. I wish them the worst. The whole system is corrupted by a systemic racist ideology.
Okay, American.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's literally American leftism coming out of her mouth. And so, brilliant. That's good. The French are also well aware of what's going on. Can you read French?
Nope.
Do you want to take a guess at what that means?
I'm a single mother. Please be merciful.
Nearly.
That's what it was in the United States.
Exactly. So. Nearly. Please do not break my windows. I need them to pay for your mother's welfare payments.
We pay your benefits.
Exactly.
We pay your benefits.
Exactly. They know the kind of the class dynamics involved here. They know that these are two separate communities that are essentially segregated, and they are aware which community is paying for the other.
I love the idea of putting that. I don't think you would do that in an English situation. Or in an American situation, would they put up, we pay your benefits, so leave this alone.
Based French.
Yeah.
So let's go on to what's happened. So we covered this a bit on Friday when it started, but this is carried on all weekend. Who knows? I'm sure it's going to not carry on into this week because finally things are being done about it. But as the BBC pointed out, there are lots and lots of fake videos online, which has been really annoying. So I've been following this all weekend, but like, okay, now this won't stop.
Could you go back up to that?
No,
first
I can't go back up.
Oh, is it broken? These things happen.
Yep.
All right, that's bugged.
Yep, that's totally screwed. Right.
But I'm pretty sure the top one there was from a movie.
Yeah, one of them was from filming in the Fast and the Furious.
I think that's the one with the cars, where the cars are falling out of the car park.
Thanks for fixing that, John. Yeah, that one there. If you go down a little bit, can I go down? I can go down a bit, but I'm not gonna just hammer it. But yeah, these are all basically fake videos, and this one here is for a Fast and Furious. Now it's just going down all the way down to the bottom again. Okay. I have no idea why that's happening. But anyway, yeah, lots of fake videos, one of them from the Fast and Furious movies. And people were, of course, uncritically sharing these around because people don't check things. We go to the next one. There's headlines, which are obviously not real headlines from John. I don't know what's going on with this, man. But I can't scroll down. But anyway, the Dr. Scholar article is not real, obviously. It just really sounds... You can scroll down just below that, please, John. It just really sounds like what she would say. So we can look at the headline there. I fully support the looting of France by the disenfranchised black youth. Call it reparations. She didn't say that.
She would, though.
I'm not saying she wouldn't. But also, I went up and I looked at the Guardian opinion pieces, right? I thought, what's the Guardian have to say to this? Nothing.
Oh, really? Not even anything?
Nothing. There is one article out of about a dozen that are just currently in the Guardian's current opinion pieces. And one of them is basically like, well, you deserve this, France. But the rest of them, and that was from, of course, a black Muslim woman. The rest of them are just like, oh, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, blah, blah, blah. It's like, really? Nothing more important going on at the moment than the Labour, the
French Revolution.
Yeah. No, not a word. And it's like not a surprise, really. Anyway, so let's go on to various videos that have come out. I can't necessarily verify a lot of these, although I've done my best to do so. I also...
Doesn't really matter.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
Either way, the story is that they're burning a lot of stuff down in France right now, needlessly.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of these you find second or third hand, so you've no idea where they've come from or when exactly they post this, so the chronology of this is not going to be great. But of course, this is them throwing flares into a library, because the library deserves it. That makes sense. Lots of things on fire. Could be America. Could be the George Floyd riots. You can't tell. Apparently 3 days of riots. Just loads of burned out buses. That's right.
Could be anywhere in the West.
If there's one thing Nahil hated, it was buses. Looks remarkably like a scene from Joker, doesn't it? It actually looks a lot like a scene from Joker.
Well, do you not remember that movie we watched?
Which one?
That I showed you, because I remember I read the Civil War thing, and then a movie came out, which I think I showed you on a previous podcast, which was called Athena. Do you remember that?
I do remember the title. I can't
So
remember
it was a French movie on Netflix.
Oh, about ethnic riots?
Well, a Algerian youth was killed by the police in circumstances that were disputed, and then the whole country turns instantly into a civil war between the new French and the old French.
Yeah.
And the new French are rioting exactly like this. Fireworks everywhere and shouting a lot of noise, which can't be described.
It's almost like this was entirely predictable. Anyway, let's go on to the looting. Why wouldn't there be looting? Of course there's looting. Looting for justice.
To be fair, anytime there is any kind of civil unrest or riot, local criminals are going to do their thing.
Yeah. Are they gonna start shouting about the Quran as they steal cars? The Quran is mine. One man, local Frenchman, yells as he steals a Citroen from a local dealership. What?
It's a French phrase. What are you?
Average Frenchman. Cutting down CCTV cameras. This actually hit one of them.
I mean, I agree with this action, to be honest.
Idiot. Absolute idiot. Setting fire to residential buildings. Oh no, there we go. Setting fire to residential buildings. That's good. Maybe the Portland mayor's in there. So I don't mean to make light of this, but oh my God, look at it. Absolutely look at it.
Yeah, but none of it's new. None of it's unpredictable. This is entirely what even movies were making fun of is going to happen in the next 5 years of France because they're at a level of a civil war.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry, but no one can be shocked or act like, oh my God, what do you mean importing the entire third world to a country would cause this? Yeah. And this is, I said before, I mean, I don't know when to bring this in, but this might be controversial. Probably is. I'm kind of on the side of the French state deserves this. Not the French people, obviously.
Right.
But do you happen to know the history of France and Algeria?
What, the colonial...
Well, that's the thing. It's not colonial. That's the problem. Because...
Would you describe it as imperial, then?
No, worse. Annexation. Because with the British
Empire...
Empire...
they wanted to make it a part of France,
with the British Empire and the majority of the French Empire, we had colonies. Okay, these separate areas that were classified as colonies and did their own thing and eventually got independence. Now, the French, for some reason, in the 1850s, decided that Algeria was as central a part of France as Paris, and so made it one of the provinces that is essential to France. And they didn't give it up until 1964. So up until that point, there were there's actually some funny history. I won't go into the whole thing, but it's a great story if you want to go read about it. But there's some parts where they decide that after the Second World War, everyone living in Algeria was entitled to French citizenship because they are as French as everyone else. Trust me, there's no difference whatsoever. And well, what are you going to get as a result of treating that land like that? Now, of course, they did end up going into a ridiculously violent and crime against humanity filled civil war there.
Yeah.
Which
wasn't it you get your ticket or you leave in a coffin or something? Well, you leave with a suitcase or leave in a coffin.
Well, the French did really bad stuff in Algeria.
Yeah.
Like Auguste Pinochet's flights, they did that to quite a lot of civilians. They buried people alive. They would bomb civilian villages as recompense for, say there was a riot, they would just go bomb some villages that had nothing to do with it, but they're Muslim. That was after the Second World War. They usually did that. They'd also torture people, rape them, blah, blah, blah. Like, they were doing all these crimes against humanity that even the French press started writing about. Is the Gestapo in Algeria? Like, what are we doing? At the same time, the Beatles are touring the world. This is what France was doing in Algeria. I mean, it was horrific. But the fundamental point there being the French tried to claim through stupid liberal ideas that you could incorporate Algeria as a central part of France, as, I don't know, Bordeaux.
Yeah, I'm not saying the Algerians don't have a just reason to resent the French.
That's one part. But then if you have a huge group of people,
bring them across?
If we had done this to the British Raj, people would be a lot more on edge about the number of Indians in the UK.
Yeah, but you can't even imagine that we'd do that.
We didn't do any of that to the Indians, so we don't have to have that worry about the Indian population.
The Indians don't quite hate us like the Algerians hate the French.
Yeah, and it's equivalent. It's about, I think, 3% of France and 3% of the UK. So 3% of the UK is Indian, 3% of France is Algerian. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but this is, again, like the French state claiming that liberal ideas are going to solve the world.
Yeah,
this is one of them, and this is a stupid one.
Yeah. Anyway, these rioters are armed, as you can see by the arms they're carrying around.
Again, average Frenchman.
Yeah.
Just integrate him. We're all the same. Aren't we all just humans?
Yep. They've got machine guns. They're firing the rifles into the air. Good news. Average French behavior. Certainly never see that in the Middle East.
No.
And apparently one of them fired an RPG into a police station as well. I don't know.
You can't
whether that's actually happening. I mean, who knows?
I know, but either way, like obviously the French people are completely suffering as a result of what their government's done to them. It's horrific. But you can't sit here and be like, well, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah, no, everyone knew this was coming. And like I said, this is why I began with the letter 2 years ago. It's like, hey, there's going to be a civil war in France that's divided along. And again, civil war is probably not the right phrase because this is clearly some kind of ethnic uprising. Like, there is a distinct, I don't want to call it a race war, but there is a distinct ethnic boundary of who's on what side here. Anyway, this happened to be encountered by one of the mayors of the mayor of one of France's suburbs, Les Haies-les Roses, which is Vincent Jeanbrun, was attacked. Rioters set a car on fire and rammed it into his home. His wife and young children were inside. His wife had a broken leg and one of his children was injured as they were trying to flee. So it's not just regular people who are being affected by this. It is also people in government, the state. Hundreds of people were arrested, but we'll go on to that in a second. Locals decided, right, we're going to have to start fighting back because what else are you going to do?
The state isn't here to protect you.
Nope.
So who's going to?
Yep. Apparently large numbers of them as well. Large numbers of young French men are like, okay, well, we're going to have to form some kind of militia and start marching around. Again, more French nationalists in the streets. Just what are their options? Who can blame them? But this is what multiculturalism has wrought.
Yeah, and I hope these people take their country back because they don't have any control of it.
And they've got nowhere else to go. Like the Moroccans.
Whereas the Algerians.
Yeah, they can go back to Algeria and Morocco. Anyway, this one. And you thought weebs with katanas would be useless. You thought wrong. I love
Whilst
this.
You were studying the Quran, I was studying the blade.
Literally though, right? And now the world's on fire and the barbarians are at the gates. You have the audacity to come to me help this. He must be like, I knew this day was coming. I knew it. I'm totally validated. All that mockery. But no, actually, it's French weebs with Qurans. Of course, French Antifa were like, well, we're not going to have any of that. And went out to start fighting the regular French people who didn't want their towns burned down. And the French police really are not happy with this. Now, this is a translation of a letter that the French police unions have sent around. I'm just going to read it because, like, okay, they're taking this pretty seriously, as they should, right? They say, now that's enough. Facing these savage hordes, asking for calm is no longer enough. It must be imposed. Restoring the Republican order and putting the apprehended beyond the capacity to harm should be the only political signals to give. In the face of such exactions, the police family must stand together. Our colleagues, like the majority of citizens, can no longer bear the tyranny of these violent minorities. Time is not for union action, but for combat against these pests. Surrendering, capitulating, and pleasing them by laying down arms is not the solution in the light of the gravity of the situation. All means must be put in place to restore the rule of law as quickly as possible. Once restored, we already know that we will relive this mess that we've been enduring for decades. For these reasons, the Alliance Police Nationale and UNSA Police will take their responsibilities and warn the government from now on that at the end, we will be in action and without concrete measures for the legal protection of police, an appropriate penal response, significant means provided, the police will judge the extent of consideration given. Today, the police are in combat because we are at war. Tomorrow, we'll be in resistance and the government will have to become aware of it. Pretty intense stuff.
No, but imagine living like this.
No, I can't.
Entirely brought upon yourselves in terms of the French state brought this upon the French people.
Yes. But I mean, this is just... There are so many people on the far right who have warned that this was going to be the inevitable rivers of blood that would end up flowing from multiculturalism, and here we are.
It's just that France is 5 years ahead. Great.
They deployed 45,000 police officers to contain this. That's a massive army. That's probably about the same number that Alexander conquered Persia with. That's huge. 492 buildings have been damaged, 2,000 vehicles burned, 3,888 fires started, and they ended up arresting about 1,300 people on the fourth night. And as you can see, the police have got, I mean, they're just an occupation force. And for some reason, they're bullying this guy on a moped.
Don't know what happened before.
No, who knows? But look, I mean, they literally look like a military occupation force.
Yeah, I mean, this is why you can see from the Algerian accounts, who are all very unfeeling and are just like, well, you deserve this. The revenge aspect. It's not quite like the conversation we have in English, where it's just revenge because you took over the world, so screw you, you don't have a country anymore.
Revenge because you bought us railways.
Yeah, but in like the 60s, the Algerians had to deal with a police state from the French committing crimes against humanity still. So that's why you get this rhetoric from them being like, enjoy. But the thing is, this didn't have to happen in France.
Yep.
Like, it all could have been drawn under Algeria, you get your independence, and your people can stay there. And we don't. We aren't that. We're France. We have French people. But
well, if there's one thing
liberal lie led to this.
If there's one thing that the French are never praised for, it's their policing prowess. Like, no one wants to be governed by French police. But anyway, the riots have spilled into Belgium because why wouldn't you? 100 people arrested in Belgium, apparently. Because of police brutality in France? No.
What do Belgium and France have in common?
Evil colonial empires.
Also foreign populations.
There is that.
Of the same kind.
So, how did the New York Times take this? Well, this is a challenge for Macron, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit of a challenge. It's just a challenge for Macron. I mean, don't worry about all of the people who have had their lives ruined because of these. Again, it's George Floyd riots all over again. Like, it's just like, look, this is a challenge for Trump. No, this is terrible for the people who have to live through it, who have done nothing to deserve it. You know? But Macron was like, well, Macron is, of course, trying to play the fence sitter on this. It's like, well, it was wrong to shoot the kid, but it's also wrong to burn down property. It's like, thanks, Macron. Brilliant take. We'll get some more. In fact, we'll go to Macron's next bad take. According to him, Gamergate did this. The Algerians and the Moroccans who are rising up are just looking for ethics in video games.
Look, they were all Gamergate fans. I don't know what to tell you. Gamergate was massive in Algeria.
According to him, they're poisoned by video games. And so this is bad parenting. And the internet should be...
Nonsense. Do you think it's just an advisor being like, say something stupid so people get distracted by the stupid statement?
I don't know. I can't even imagine. But he thinks the internet should be subject to stricter censorship because that was the problem. Too much free speech online. There are, of course, Algerian supporters who are like, if France doesn't want our immigrants, it shouldn't have colonized Algeria. I mean, okay, at least we agree it's revenge.
I know, but I mean, this is my point. Like, it's not like English colonization.
Yeah.
Like, the French state tried to make Algeria a central part of it for, what's that, about almost 100 years?
Yep.
I mean, you actually wanted them to be there.
132 years.
Yeah. I was like,
yes.
Well...
It's really stupid.
It's almost like what should have happened is we admit that different ethnic groups are different.
Wow, that's a crazy racist thought you've just had.
Yeah. I don't know, vote Ericsson more.
I'm pro-diversity, though, so,
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. It doesn't explain why exactly Ireland has to have immigrants now. Or Sweden, or Finland, or Latvia. It doesn't explain all of that, but at least it does explain the French case. But yes, this is about revenge, and it's always about revenge, right? But anyway, a bunch of French mayors have had thoughts on this, which is basically, for some reason, it's disappeared from my notes. And I'm not going to go down because I'll break it again. But basically, the French mayors are like, listen, we've been warning about this for ages. We told you this was coming. This is going to get really bad. In fact, you see there,
Ericsson's face comes up.
There are communes everywhere in France that are the scene of serious unrest. It's like communes. Enclaves might be a way of describing them. So, yes.
I'm sorry, but I mean, this is the French Ron Paul meme. It's happening. You could have prevented this.
Yeah, it very much is. Yep. And it could have been prevented, but it's too late now. So now it's the Tucker Carlson meme. It's over. It's so over. It's never been more over than it is now, according to the French mayors. There were, of course, French liberals who went out and said, please do not go and fight. It's ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous?
Opinion disregarded.
Yeah. Oh, good. A liberal French woman has turned up to encourage us not to put down the riots.
50 more years of liberalism and we'll all sing Kumbaya.
John Lennon's Imagine crying on the street.
Oh.
Anyway. Then you had French commies going around going, well, I mean, in any society, the police are maintained to use an equal social order. It's like, yeah, okay.
It's also nothing to do with this.
Don't care, communists.
Algerians, why are you doing this? Inequality and social... No, of course not.
Yeah. Poland's prime minister has a response, though. That's the wrong one.
Imam Tweedy.
Oh, yeah. Well, Imam Tweedy is just like, well, basically... You realize that you have brought in the worst people from these societies because really the people who are doing well in these societies actually don't want to leave because they live there and they're successful there. And so there is a self-selection mechanism when you open the borders to any other countries. The people who are doing the worst in those countries tend to want to come to you.
I was actually interacting with a Taliban account recently.
Oh, really? Yeah, what a surprise.
Because when you always see these posts like Afghan man rapes 3 children in Austria or something. And you always think to yourself, I mean, God, is everyone in Afghanistan an absolute barbarian?
No, they'd probably hang him.
These Taliban accounts were posting, we did warn you when we took over these people were coming and you shouldn't have taken them. I was like, well, I missed that, to be fair, but if you did...
Yeah, but they were refugees. Yeah, refugees because we're going to hang them for the crimes they've committed. I'm not saying I'm pro-Taliban, but all I'm saying is...
I am anti-rapist.
Yeah, I am anti-rapist. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's the Polish Prime Minister... translating this says, our plan is Europe of secure borders, security and public order. These are the values from which everything else begins.
And then posted a video which he has footage of France versus footage of random places in Poland.
Yeah. I mean, we went to Poland. Insanely peaceful.
Do you still remember what you said in the taxi as soon as we got to the airport?
No, what?
You said to the taxi driver, look, there's Polish people.
Well, it was unusual to go to their capital city and actually see Polish people.
Yeah.
Because we don't see British people in our capital city. But yeah, so Poland, 0 terror attacks, 0 ethnic riots. Love my zeros. Anyway, so, no, wrong one. So, the BBC take. Far-right parties are on the rise across Europe. Good. Finally. Jesus Christ. Have we not had enough leftism yet? I'm willing to take the Polish view, the sort of, aggressive conservative view, so we're just not having it.
I think this article, I don't think they actually mentioned Poland in
No,
here,
they don't.
which is weird.
They
Because, of
men-
course, far right only means the bad people in Western Europe we don't like.
Yeah, they mean, what's the lady in Italy? Meloni.
Maloney,
Vox.
Marine Le Pen.
Yeah, Finland and Greece.
Marine Le Pen says that these race riots should never have been imported. She's a member of the far right for these.
Okay, well, you're making the far right sound like quite a reasonable position in the light of what's happening. Politico, of course, have the same take. Oh, God, Europe's going right wing. So what does that mean? There's not going to be another genocide, is there? No,
They
there's
don't want to
not.
import rapists anymore.
Foreign criminals will have to stay at home.
Is that what we were doing?
Yeah. But so this is basically, as far as I can tell, just a fairly reasonable summary of what's going on. These are ethnic riots. They are because of a long history of conflict, and it's not going to be solved, and it should never have happened. Why are they in France? That's the question. We'll leave it there.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Epoch series, this episode on the Siege of Waco. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.